Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space and to another Halloween card. This one using pretty much all of this is oldie but goodie products, most of which I have used multiple times in previous videos, past Halloween series. The mushroom stems wafer die set that I have an entire playlist on that I actually used in my first Halloween video for this year. Pulled those out again, and yeah, I had an idea in my head, and I built the whole scene and all the fun things, and then pulled out all these random products, some mica stain sprays, made things sparkly, and I had a lot of fun making it, and I hope you guys enjoy watching how I made it. And as always, at the end of this video, I'll link to my Halloween series playlist, and I'll link to the mushroom stems playlist as well, because yeah, I've done multiple videos using this little wafer die set. It's been a favorite of mine for quite some time, and yeah, I've been enjoying using it in all sorts of ways. So keep watching and I will show you guys how I made this card. So to start off this card, I started with my background, and I cut down a piece of Simon Says Stamps Fog cardstock, which is light gray cardstock, and I knew I'd be doing a 5x7 card because all the elements I was going to build, I was like, I'm going to need more space. So this piece is 4.5 by 6.5, and I'm using the spiderweb background stamp. I have used this many times over the years. It's one of my favorites, and it will not cover this whole panel. It's too long. That's fine. I inked up the stamp with Simon's white pigment ink, and then I just used a cloth and kind of removed some of the ink towards the bottom and just softened that edge and just stamped it, like pressed the cardstock into it so it just kind of fades off at the bottom. That's fine, because I'm going to have all my, mushrooms and different things at the bottom. It doesn't really matter. And it doesn't need to be perfect because it's Halloween themed. And yeah, with all the things I'm going to add, I just thought the spiderweb would just be kind of a fun addition. So I coated it with detail white embossing powder. A person could do glow in the dark embossing powder. I did think of it, but I just decided to go with white. So coated it with that, melted that with my heat tool. And then the next layer I added was one of the stencils from the Layered Bats stencil set. This one I've also done or used in many videos. It is one of my favorites. So I used just one of the stencils, and I'm using the black opaque texture paste. Loving this stuff. So I applied that. I went and washed my stencil on my palette knife. I let this dry, and then I started having fun with the sprays. So I'm using Shaded Lilac Distress Spray Stain and Hickory Smoke Distress Spray Stain, just to add some color. And then to really knock it out with the shimmer, I'm using the Ominous Twilight Distress Mica Stain, which I've already used this, I think. I've used both of these colors in recent videos, but like Ominous Twilight is just deep dark purple, and the shimmer of, like always, I will show at the end with my flashlight, the shimmer. It's just fabulous. So I used that, and I also used Unraveled, which love. So spread that all over, added a bit more of the hickory smoke, and you can totally let this air dry. I was just speeding up the process because it always looks so much different when it's dry, especially when you're like mixing different types of sprays, all the different things. So one, I was impatient, wanted to see what it looked like when it was dry. And two, I wanted to dry this because I wanted to do some ink blending around the edges. So I just used my little heat it tool to speed along the drying process. And then I just took a tissue to like kind of sop up some of the blobs I had on there too. So that once I got this dry, I can then go around the perimeter of this with Black Soot Distress ink, because that just gives it that extra bit of spooky goodness. And I just posted a video I think it's going to be the one right before this, depending on how I get things uploaded. But most likely it'll be the one uploaded right before this. Using black soot distress ink and blending it on die cuts. And it was a floral card. And a lot of people were very shocked about the black soot distress ink. It works. It just works. But I have many ideas just simmering. And this one was like a direct result of that, because I was like, black soot distress ink, one, it's just fabulous for Halloween cards. But yeah, I pulled out a bunch of my favorite wafer die sets. I did all the die cutting off camera because it's same old. But the first thing was the Friendly Ghosts, which I've done a bajillion videos on. And those were just die cut from white cardstock. And for those, I used a little bit of Lost Shadow distress ink. And I did my blending, set those aside, and then I'm going into with the black soot distress ink. I'm working on my little waffle flower grip mat, and I did the Windswept leaves, wafer dies, of course, and I die cut those from Concord and 9th. I think it was avocado cardstock. I think that was the green I used, and then black soot distress ink. And then my mushrooms. Not only did I use my favorite mushroom stems wafer dies, I also pulled out the mushroom house wafer die, which I've used in a video or two. And it's much bigger. And yeah, I had so much fun with this. So the tops of the mushrooms, I die cut from Simon's Royal Purple. Yeah. Royal Purple cardstock, black soot distress ink, blended onto them. And then the undersides of the mushrooms, I die cut from Simon's lavender cardstock and did the blending. And then the witch hat. The witch hat came out last year, I think. It was part of the like limited edition kit. It's available separately. It's fine. But yeah, the SASSY witch hat, I die cut it from dark gray cardstock, like Simon's Slate cardstock, so that when I blended on that black soot distress ink, it gave it a bit more depth and dimension versus just doing it in black cardstock. And then the band and the bow for the hat, I die cut from that same lavender cardstock. And again, blending black soot distress ink just on everything. And then the bases or stems for these mushrooms, I had die cut from ivory cardstock. And first I added brush corduroy distress ink. And yeah, my blending, not smooth, not fabulous. I don't care. This is, I'm positive I've mentioned this before, but that's one of the things I love about Halloween cards is it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be smooth, any of it. It just adds to the texture and the chaos and, you know, the spookiness of Halloween. And I love it. That's one of the many reasons I love making Halloween cards, because you just go for it. Just get inky and have fun. So that's what I did. So on those stems, I blend the brush corduroy and some of the black soot and whatever was, getting picked up on my mat. I didn't care. And then I popped out those little tiny pieces for that door there and just used the black soot distress ink and then inlaid them back into place with some washi tape and some glue. And then to assemble, they're all super easy. The whole mushroom house, you just adhere the mushroom cap like onto it, and then the base, and then you've got this adorable mushroom house. And the door is functional, and yeah, that's how one thing led to another. I think the last time I used this, I kind of covered up the door because I was like, that's not what I want for my card, whatever. And for this one, I was going to cover it up. But then I was like, oh, what if it's the ghost house? There's a story here somewhere, it just started evolving. And then, yeah, it got even more fun. So I assembled all my pieces just with Craft Tacky glue. I've shown these mushrooms like a bajillion times, but it'll never get old. I don't know what it is about them. I just love them. They are so cute and fun. And yeah, I've made a ton of cards using them. And then the Sassy Witch hat, also super easy to assemble. It comes with that outline that I die cut from that same dark gray cardstock. And then you just layer the pieces onto it, like super simple. So I layered on the top portion and then the band, and then realized I needed to layer the parts for the brim onto there. But the glue wasn't dry yet, so I just kind of popped that up. Got that, shimmied into place, and then popped in the other piece. So you could make this like even extra dimensional if you want to layer up like more layers of cardstock or put it on with like you know, dimensionals, that sort of a thing. But got those into place, and then those little itty bitty pieces for the bow I had kept in one of my triangle trays because otherwise I would have lost them. And those just get adhered onto the base of the bow to, again, create that dimension and give it the like proper look. So adhered those into place and then pop that onto the band. So then I've got this witch's hat. And this was why I went with the mushroom house, because I needed a mushroom big enough for the witch's hat to sit on, because the biggest mushroom in the mushroom stem set it would work, but yeah, the mushroom house was just the perfect size. So I did all my assembling, set those aside for a second. I had cut a piece of black cardstock to slightly larger than the background. So yeah, the background was 4.5 by 6.5. So this ended up being like 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, something like that. Just enough to give me some extra wiggle room, so I could rough up these edges with my scissors just to add some extra texture. I've been showing this a lot in videos recently because I'm back on this kick of adding texture to my cards by roughing up the edges. This was like something like old school that we used to do back in the day, and then I stopped doing it for years and then back on it for now. So I roughed up all those edges and then adhered these panels together with, again, craft tacky glue. So once I've got those adhered, my background is coming, and honestly, I could you could add a sentiment to this and it'd be great. And I've done videos basically like that, but the whole point was the mushroom scene and with the little ghost house and everything. So I just started adhering, you know, my greenery and the mushrooms and just kind of figuring out how I wanted to place all of these things. So some are, you know, peeking in and peeking out behind other things, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, sticking those windswept leaves in amongst all these little mushrooms. And then once I've got those into place, I'm going to add the witch's hat to the top of the mushroom. And it just, perfection, you know, chef's kiss. And then the biggest of the ghosts, he's going to be, you know, coming out the door of the mushroom house. Love it. Absolutely love it. So I just stuck them in there, adhered them with a couple little thin foam squares, and then same thing, like just kind of tucked the medium-sized ghost in there and the little mushrooms, all that kind of stuff. Like some I popped up a little bit with some thin foam squares. This also just helps like to adhere them really well, because by this point, you know, I got random little layers and things all over the place. So just a combo of craft tacky glue and some foam squares. So once I've got those into place, I originally was going to use this CZ Design Spooky Wafer die, which I've used in many videos. And I had the glitter part of it already die cut. I was going to use it. It was like last year. I forget when. And changed my mind at the time, but put it back in the package. And I was like, ooh, it's perfect for this card. So I stacked all the layers together. And then off camera, I fiddled a lot with where I would place this, and it just didn't look right. Either if I placed it lower, it was covering up way too much of like the little scene, and I didn't want to place it on the top because I didn't want it to cover the background either. You know, I fiddled, and then I was like, no, I will save it for a future card. I need something smaller. So I pulled out the CZ Design Boo wafer die. This one also has an outline, but I didn't use that either. I just used the word and die cut it from scraps of black cardstock. And then the top layer I die cut from Simon's black glitter cardstock, which is more of like a blackish purple, which was kind of perfect for this card. It's a little harder to see on camera, but in real life, like it's just there. But I also didn't want, because it's not the main focus really for this card. Like the main focus is the whole little scene with the mushrooms and the ghosts. So this was much better because it just fit perfectly in that lower corner there. So I adhered it in place. And then the little sentiment strip is from the Spooky Salutations sentiment strip pack from Simon Says Stamp. And that one, same thing. I've used, repurchased, like hacked these up so many times because I've used them in so many videos. And I just trimmed down one of the sentiments and adhered that with a little bit of foam tape. And then my card base was a side folding 5x7 card that I made from a piece of Simon's white cardstock that I had cut 10 inches by 7 inches, scored it at 5. That made my card. Then on the inside of the card, I took that layered bats stencil again and Simon's Heather Positively Saturated ink and just blended that ink over the stencil. So I've got these purple bats on the inside of the card. And then once I've got that stenciled, I had taken a couple more of the Spooky Salutations sentiment strips, and I had just blended what was left over on the brush from using all the Black Soot Distress ink and just kind of blended that onto there just to give it a little something, you know? So blended that onto the little sentiment strips and then adhered those to the inside of the card. So that finished off the inside. So once those are adhered, I can then adhere the card front to the card base. And as always, a person could stop here, but I'm going to add some bling. I've got shimmer, sparkle, embossing paste, heat embossing, my whole little scene, but you can never go wrong with bling. So I went through my stash, and one of my absolute faves, the Trinity Stamps Oh My Stars embellishment mix, like star-shaped confetti that are like holographic, and love. So all over. Just, I would put down a dab of glue, pick up one of the stars, stick it in place. No rhyme or reason with these. Just wherever, just fitting in. They're just part of the background, you know? So I just went along and just added just a dab of glue here, stuck in a star. Another dab of glue, stuck in a star. And it just works. And when I show with my flashlight, like the shimmer in the background, you'll also see like how these stars like reflect, and they're just so much fun. This card was just a blast. So once I got those adhered into place, this card is complete. And as always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. That'll be the first link in the description box below the video. And that'll go to my blog post. In my blog post, I'll have pictures of the card, picture links to all the supplies I used, all that info. That'll be directly below. I will also have the entire supply list with links to all of the supplies I used and showed in this video. That'll be in the description box below as well. Here's the flashlight, so you can kind of get an idea of like the glittery, shimmery background sentiment, the holographic stars. And you got the texture from the black opaque texture paste on the bats. And then the little ghosties in their Halloween mushroom house. So yeah, like I said, I had just a blast making these. So all the info that you might need will be in the description box below the video. And then at the end of the video, like I said, I'll link to that my Halloween series playlist, and I'll put a link to the mushroom stems playlist because there's a bunch of videos in there too, so you guys can check those out if you are interested. And as always, thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I would love to have you, and I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.